I'm Tom Ballard. Wonderful show for you tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about space and universe and the nature of reality with my guest, theoretical physicist and string theory expert, Professor Greene, everybody. Smart man. I stopped doing science subjects after year 9. I think this will go well. Now, big story, of course. Fire's still in the headlines. Big shout-out to everybody suffering in Victoria and New South Wales. Big shout-outs to people who are helping. You're wonderful. But the heat has also been on. Greene's leader, Richard Di Natale, seen here boring a baby. Di Natale's under pressure following these comments he made linking bushfires to climate change. And, you got to look out. That's a big topic, everyone. Very sensitive. A lot of controversy. Let's find out what he said. Here we go.
We are seeing climate change in our everyday lives have an impact on the risk of bushfires to our communities. Right now, we would normally be talking about the end of the bushfire season, and yet here we are with bushfires ravaging my home state and indeed my community.
That was the clip. That was fucking boring. Come on. I wanted some crazy green shit. You know, Adani is Satan. Coal is a war criminal. Recycle the polar bears. You know, green shit. Who could possibly get outraged by that?
Look, this is absolutely ridiculous from the comments from the Greens. They are insensitive.
In the Greens political party, they can't let any one of these opportunities go by without trying to make a tawdry, self-interested political point.
This is not the time to politicise a disaster like this.
Yes, the Prime Minister is right. This is not the time to politicise this disaster, which is why Turnbull himself toured the area to make sure no one showed up to politicise it. Thank you for your service, sir. You're a goddamn hero. Bring it in, baby. Here we go. Just keeping track of all these. Thanks very much. It's good. It's good to keep across it all. Prime Minister also took the opportunity to give the Greens a science lesson.
Well, David, as you know very well, you can't attribute any particular event, whether it's a flood or a fire or a drought or a storm, to climate change.
That's true. You can't link a single natural disaster to climate change. Yet the Greens seem to do it every single time. In fact, it seems as if the Greens politicising natural disasters is becoming more and more frequent and of a higher intensity each time. At this rate, by 2050, the Earth's surface could be entirely uninhabitable because it's been so politicised by the Greens. Anyway, it's a good thing that you can't link one single event to climate change, because otherwise we'd all have a problem with that time Turnbull toured flood-affected Tasmania during the 2016 election campaign and warned that natural disasters would become more severe as climate change gets worse. You see, Di Natale, now's not the time to politicise climate change. That time was 2 years ago, you see? You missed your chance. Bring out the board, baby. Spin it around, honey. Worth it? Di Natale's also been copping friendly fire following the Paul Greene showing during the Baton by-election, and he's had enough. The Guardian is reporting that Di Natale has called for a purge. Oh, yes, a green purge. I've actually done the Greens purge before. Lost 2 kilos, got very gassy. No good. Be careful. It's all heating up in the Greens. One of Western Australia's most senior members of the Greens party called for Di Natale to resign, describing his politics as explicitly centrist. Ooh! Fun fact, explicitly centrist is also the name of Emmanuel Macron's sex tape. Let's talk about the Commonwealth Games.
Well, all eyes are on the Gold Coast for the Commonwealth Games.
No, they're not. Preparations are underway, though, and we're getting an insight into what the Commonwealth Games village is going to involve, what they got there. Cue the recitation of various numbers.
The village is made up of 1,100 apartments and more than 80 townhouses.
We'll do 6,000 to 8,000 serves of eggs every day, about 30,000 serves of fresh fruit.
Here in the food hall, 20,000 meals will be prepared each and every day.
Daily, that means 3,400 pillow changes, 7,000 towels changed, 1,000 kilos of laundry powder used, and more than 17,000 rolls of toilet paper used over the Games period.
Who gives a shit? Why does any of this matter? I've never been watching the Commonwealth Games, seeing elite athletes pushing their bodies to the limit and thought, oh, how are they doing for bog roll? It's never come up. be fair, I've also never watched the Commonwealth Games, so I guess I can't really... What else have they got in there?
There's even a smoothie bar and hairdressing salon and a stockpile of condoms.
Ah, yes, the condoms! Major sporting events, the rule is you got to mention how many condoms are kicking around. 100,000 will be available to athletes in the village in the Commonwealth Games this year. 100,000 condoms. Obviously, that's 90,000 for the lawn bowlers, then divvy up the rest. Those lawn bowlers, horny rats, I say. Horny rats. Why are we fascinated with the condoms? There are other world events. We never talk about how many condoms are at those. You know, I never heard delegates will be provided 2,000 condoms at this week's G20 summit. That never comes up. Oh, yes, tense scene today as US President Donald Trump met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. 15 condoms were provided. And now at the Vatican, the cardinals begin their sacred tradition of choosing a new pope with the help of 0 condoms. I like those lawn bowlers. People in the Vatican love raw dogging it. Sometimes it's just fun to say things. Now for some political news from the United States that won't make you want to kill yourself.
Actress Cynthia Nixon has announced she's running to be the governor of New York. Nixon is best known for her role in Sex and the City, playing Miranda. She's now switching to politics, challenging current governor Andrew Cuomo.
So Miranda. I think this is just what US politics needs. Someone with a unique combination of being a celebrity politician with the last name Nixon. What could go wrong? Sex and the City's final episode aired in 2004. I personally refuse to acknowledge that the films exist. So for any of you... That was shit. Horny rats. For any of you too young to have seen the original version of Sex and the City, it looked exactly like this.
Scene 1, take 1.
Carrie, what was your news?
Berger broke up with me on a post-it note.
Oh, a post-it note?
Dear God, man. So Miranda is running for governor. Now, we actually have an exclusive here. We have actually the first ad of Cynthia Nixon's political campaign. Have a look.
The streets of New York City. We always knew that one of the girls would someday make governor of New York. And sure, we know you think she's the boring one.
I'm a 34-year-old nerd.
But who would you prefer to run our city?
Better bullshit.
She loves New York, fights for all New Yorkers, and she's not afraid to live rough.
Your good friend has just taken a piece of cake out of the garbage and eaten it.
She knows that the people of New York deserve better than the current governor, Andrew Cuomo.
He's just not that into you. So move on.
Don't be a Charlotte. Vote Cynthia. Vote Cynthia.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Obviously, this is ABC, so we need to be fair and balanced. Okay, I don't want to read Jared Henderson's column tomorrow about how ABC has a clear Miranda bias while Middle Australia is clearly a Samantha. So, in the interest of balance, here's a look at the first attack ad against Cynthia Nixon's campaign. Take a look.
Cynthia Nixon has announced that she will run for governor of New York. But just who is she really?
Hello, I'm drunk.
A woman who wants to take religion out of your bedroom, the place it belongs the most.
Who is this and what is she doing in my bedroom?
A woman with no opinions.
I've never had an opinion in my life.
She says she loves New York.
I love New York.
But does she really love anything?
I can't say I love you. It's not in my DNA.
She says she is for all New Yorkers, but is she really?
I'm a Manhattan girl. I don't like anything not Manhattan.
Don't let the Miranda of the group become the Miranda of New York. Vote Cuomo.
This ad was made and paid for by the We Like Charlotte Moore Group for America.
Hey, if you're seeing this as a clip on Facebook, stop watching now. You're probably being turned into a Trump voter.
Facebook shares have wiped off 7% or $38 billion as it faces accusations the data of 50 million of its users was exploited for political gain. Facebook says it's investigating allegations political consultancy firm Cambridge Analytica harvested data from American voters during the 2016 presidential election.
And there are allegations that the firm exploited Facebook's user data to benefit Donald Trump's presidential campaign.
Yes, we now know it's not just Russian bots or white supremacists that got Trump elected. It was also this whistleblower from Cambridge Analytica, Christopher Wiley, a gay Canadian vegan. Great, another reason to hate vegans. Don't hate vegans, they're fine. Christopher Wiley has an interesting attitude on how to manipulate voters. In 2013, he was doing a PhD in fashion forecasting and believed the same logic that applies to fashion could be applied to elections. He said Trump is like a pair of Uggs or Crocs. So how do you get from people thinking they're gross to the moment when everyone is wearing them? And he's right, Trump and Uggs are the same. According to Google, just like Trump, Ugg boots have a tanned outer surface and a synthetic sole. Point is, you can engineer votes the same way as shopping habits if you have enough data on people. And it's not just data. Cambridge Analytica also use other methods to influence events, such as blackmailing people by secretly filming them. Revelations which came about after the UK's Channel 4 secretly filmed Cambridge Analytica. Oops! We're really good at secretly doing what we do. We just can't see when other people are secretly doing when we do to reveal what it is we secretly do. Shh, it's a secret. Cambridge Analytica even tried to get a foothold in Australia, which I guess explains how people were manipulated into voting for those bloody clowns in Canberra.
Cambridge Analytica is registered here at this suburban Sydney property, but the man who registered the company says it never conducted any business.
Fuck! We voted for the bloody clowns in Canberra by our own free will. I'll get you, Cambridge Analytica! So, how did Cambridge Analytica actually manage to obtain data on 50 million Americans?
They had apps on Facebook that were given special permission to harvest data not from just the person who used the app or joined the app, but also it would then go into their entire friend network and pull out all of the friends' data as well.
Yeah. They used apps on Facebook that harvested your data and your friends' data. That is shocking and unacceptable, and I'm sure that Facebook did everything in their power to get it back from Cambridge Analytica. That's right, they wrote a letter. Classic Silicon Valley. The letter told Christopher Wiley to delete the information, and you can bet Facebook followed that letter up. And by that I mean they didn't pursue a response and didn't check the computer to see if the data had been deleted. In fact, all Wiley had to do was tick a box saying he'd done it and then send it back. Just ticking an obligatory box? Who are you? Me setting my privacy settings on Facebook? And that's part of the problem. If you actually read the terms and conditions, a lot of this data scraping was permitted by Facebook at the time. So, who sucks more? The company whose entire business model is based around data collection, or the other company who utilised that business model to further a political agenda? Let's find out now with another Tonightly Debates Leak. Just long enough, that, I reckon. Joining me from Cambridge Analytica, we have Senior Campaign Planner Greg Larson. Hello. And from Facebook Public Relations Manager, Greta Lee Jackson.
Hi, Tom. What's on your mind?
It's a bit weird. OK, so who is the most evil out of you two?
Oh, it's definitely me. I love being evil. Absolutely adore it.
Greg's right. Facebook isn't evil. We're just helping you connect with your friends.
Oh, come on. I mean, you're not as evil as me, I'll give you that. But the only reason we could use that data is because you collected it in the first place. You may not be as evil as me, but you're trying.
We only collect data to provide you with a unique customer experience to connect you with the things you love, Tom. Like this commercial for a Harry Styles concert.
Oh, I love Harry Styles.
Or this alternative news source that says Harry Styles supports Pauline Hanson.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think that can be true.
Well, it must be true. There's Harry right there.
That's true. Harry Styles is always right.
We here at Facebook do not support that level of manipulation, which is why we have done everything we can to make sure it never happens again.
What kind of steps have you taken?
We wrote a strongly worded letter to Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, a letter, you say? I'm so scared of the letter. Oh, run, little children. The letter's coming. Oh, we're fled into the forest to hide from the letter. Mummy, is the mailman here?
Are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished, yes.
Right. I don't think the letter had much of an impact.
Well, we've also changed the terms and conditions.
Oh, the T's and C's.
Shut up!
Okay.
How are exactly have you changed the terms and conditions to stop this from happening again?
Well, I've changed the user interface so we can provide a unique customer experience to connect you with your friends and family.
Okay, I don't know what that means. It just sounds like you're finding new ways to exploit my personal information.
And your friends and family.
What? What are you saying?
It means
Ah!
your product, Tom.
What?
Your life is for sale and I'm in the market to buy.
You want to buy something? How about a new desk chair? We have plenty of options on the Facebook Marketplace.
I do want a new desk chair. How did you know that?
We know everything.
Yes, and she told me because I paid her money.
I feel very scared right now.
I know. I can taste your fear.
Oh, God! That's it! I'm done. I'm deleting my Facebook account.
You'll never get off Facebook, Tom. You're in too deep.
You can never leave.
No, get away! Get away! Beast! Be gone! Be gone! If you've enjoyed this video, please share and like it on our ABC Comedy Facebook page at the link below. My guest tonight is in Australia for the World Science Festival, which kicks off in Brisbane tomorrow. He's a Pulitzer Prize finalist, theoretical physicist and mathematician who knows stuff about time travel, quantum physics and string theory. Ooh! Please welcome Professor Brian Greene. Thank you for being here. That was an intro. Welcome back to Australia. You've been here many times,
Thank
of course. Have you discovered any science things yet?
Not in the last couple of days.
Waste of time.
Waste of time.
Now, it's impossible to not talk to you without, thinking about the incredible loss that the world of science had over the past couple of weeks. Professor Stephen Hawking has passed away. You knew him personally, is that right?
Yes, I did.
You met him a couple of times. I'd love to hear any personal interactions you had with him and then talk about his wider work. You went to a dinner party with him? You've hung out with him?
Oh, no, we've had many dinners together and been to conferences together. And look, he was an incredible figure in science. And he was also a fun guy to hang out with. So that's a side of him that doesn't really get as much play, but he really was funny, smart. He was a great guy.
He would tell jokes?
He would. Slowly. But, yeah.
It's all about the timing. It
Yeah.
works. And for the layman, which I'm very much in that category, and I'm sure lots of people watching are too, what is the most succinct way to say what his work meant for our understanding of the universe?
Well, he gave us a new understanding of how space and time behave when you take into account quantum mechanics, a theory of how small things behave. And he applied those ideas to black holes and transformed our understanding of how they work, how they behave.
How did that affect your work personally?
It does. So the work that I've been focused on for 30 years has been trying to put our ideas of gravity together with our ideas of quantum mechanics in a so-called unified theory. And Stephen Hawking was one of the early people who showed us what such a theory would have to do, what it would have to look like. So, yeah, he's pervasive.
Right. Now, we don't have much time tonight, so we're just going to sort out the existence of God. And then Plebs is up next on ABC Comedy. So, you're doing this panel at the Science Festival on Saturday, and you're not getting into the old, can science and religion coexist, does God exist kind of thing, but you are kind of interested in what science can tell us about why we have religious beliefs.
Yes.
Why does that interest you?
Well, look, I mean, you survey human beings across the planet, and 75% of us have some kind of religious belief, religious affiliation. Why in the world is that? Why in the world are so many of us looking up to the sky and thinking there's some kind of force, some kind of creator, some kind of divine being that's shaping reality, right? There's got to be some explanation that goes all the way back to the Paleolithic times. There must be something in our past that through natural selection, through evolution, has driven us to have this kind of a perspective. And that's the conversation we're going to have.
So you're looking for a scientific explanation as to why we believe in God, or why some people believe in God.
That's right.
Does that also necessitate the fact that God does not exist?
Not at all. It could be that the answer to why people believe in God is that God does exist. That would be the simplest, most straightforward answer.
We're done, everybody. Good night.
But here's the problem with that. There are on the order of 4,000 distinct religions practiced around the world. They can't all be right, right? So if I believe in my religion because it's true, I must say that the other folks in the world are somehow confused because they're believing in their religion and that religion is not true. So I'm still faced with the question of explaining why do they believe in all this nonsense that's not true, even if I believe that my religion is true.
So I used to be an atheist. Well, I am still an atheist, but I used to be a real douchebag about it. I've made plenty of comedy jokes about it and stuff. If you believe this stuff, you're an idiot. I've tried to be a better person than that.
Very, very, very nice.
But I still believe that there are claims made in religion that if we believe in science, we have to be extremely sceptical of to the point of dismissing them. I mean, if you really believe that someone was born of a virgin, that is, to all our understanding of biology, is biological impossible. Is it inherently bad that people believe those things?
Not necessarily. What I do think is bad is if people don't put in the effort to question their own beliefs, to interrogate their beliefs. I mean, that's really what science is about. Science is not about facts or how things are one way or another. Of course, facts are important, but science is about a perspective on reality where you take in information and you subject it to a rigorous set of thoughts that allow you to determine for your own self whether you think those thoughts are right or wrong. And when people don't do that, when they just accept what they're told, that to me is where the real problem lies.
Professor Hawking had some strong opinions on religion. We've got a little clip here. Let's take a look at that.
Religion has been a force for evil throughout history. I think the conventional afterlife is a fairy tale for people afraid of the dark. One can't prove that there wasn't a creator. All one can do is offer a more reasonable explanation based on science.
What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. And as a scientist, many of my beliefs align with exactly what Stephen Hawking is saying. At the same time, let's look around the world and recognize that the force of religion has not only been for evil, it's also been for good in some ways. You know, you can say that there are many things that are a force for evil. Nuclear energy is something that can be really good for the world, but nuclear weapons are pretty bad for the world, and they all come from the same underlying physics. So you have to be careful about labeling something as evil as opposed to labeling how it's used as evil. And for sure, religion has been used for evil. It's also been used for good.
Often something you hear from people of religion, if you mention that you don't have faith yourself, is that, you know, how do you find meaning? How do you look around?
Yeah.
What gets you through? And I feel like with your work, you would have an understanding of just how mother-flippin' vast the universe is and how freaking tiny we are.
Yeah.
How tiny you and I are. Does that fill you with joy? Do you revel in that tininess, or does it terrify you and make you cry at night?
It's both. It's really both.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah. There you go.
We're the same.
You want a hug? You want a hug?
Yeah.
But, you know, and it's not just in space. Many people have that perspective. We're tiny against the grand expanse of the universe. We're also tiny in time. We exist for a little tiny window of time in the grand expanse of the cosmic timeline. That's frightening and thrilling because it means that we're very special, right? The fact that we're here and can think and can understand that fact, but that specialness, it's ephemeral. It goes away very quickly, and that is frightening.
What's it like being a scientist who's really passionate about public education of science in the era of Trump? The Trump administration has done a hell of a lot of things. We've heard about him talking about climate change as a hoax. There are some directives for some government departments saying don't use the term climate change. Some would say a climate change denier has been elected to the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
What the hell is it like over there?
Well, it's kind of awful, right? You have someone, as you're saying, who has a complete disregard for how the world actually works. And that is antithetical to everything that we have learned over the past few hundred years. I never thought that there'd be a moment in my life where I'd need to have a conversation where we're saying, let's agree on the basic structure of how the world is and then have an argument about what to do with it. Policy arguments, that's great. But we're actually arguing now about the basic structure, the basic facts of how things are. Who would have thought that that's where we would be here in the 21st century? And yet we are. And that's nuts.
Do you see that changing if, you know, say Trump loses in 2020 and the Democrats get in? Is that going to restore sanity, or is something fundamentally changed in the American politic where that we can't get back to that?
No, it'll come right back. You know, science is powerful. Science is absolutely powerful because it's self-correcting, and ultimately it wins because it is the pathway that allows you to make predictions that are testable, that you can go out and determine through experiment and observation whether they are right or whether they are wrong.
Fake news.
Science wins. Okay. So people can say that. It'll be a temporary blip, And my guess is that 100 years from now, people will not even know what Trump was.
If they're still alive, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you for spending the small amount of limited time that we have in this universe together. Professor Brian Greene, everybody. Thank you very much. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for watching. Make sure you join us tomorrow night. Horror Show is going to be performing live. Stick around now for Plebs. Good night, everyone. I love you. Thanks,
It's lol time. Tonight, ancient Rome's never been so hilarious. It's new Plebs. Then, when a wild child's under house arrest, a buttoned-up nanny is hired to look after her. New idiot sitter. Later, it's back to school for John Luck in new My Johnny.